Hey everyone, Rob with Shell Repair USA here. In today's video, we're going to be bringing you along with us through some of the repair process to this Hudson single. This single actually belongs to a member of the US national team and had a minor incident at the boathouse. The hull of the boat was actually not damaged. There were just some cracks and chips in the paint and filler layers. So we first sanded those problem spots down to the substrate and skimmed them with a microlite filled epoxy. The entire bow was then faired in straight and it's now ready for primer. So here you see me wiping the boat down with a pre-painting cleaner. So now I'll be masking the rest of the boat off with some new plastic, and the bow deck underneath the hull has already been masked off with tape, and that piece of green tape going across the hull is actually just there to show me where that masking stops, so I know not to go any further than that with my primer. So with the rest of the boat covered in plastic, I grab a sheet of masking paper, and here you can see I'm doing what's called back taping, which will leave a soft edge once the primer goes on. So now I've got my mask on because I'll be mixing up the primer, and I'll speed the video up here a little bit. So we're actually going to be using a white primer, even though the boat itself from the factory they use a gray primer, and we're going to be using a white primer because then we need to use a little bit less paint to cover it up, and we're always thinking about adding the least amount of weight to the boat as possible, so we're trying not to lay tons of materials onto the boat because it really is a racing shell. So with my primer mixed and ready to go, I head over to our exhaust fan, turn the exhaust on, and put the rest of my suit on. And the grates you can see here in the floor are part of the exhaust system. Pretty much any of the overspray just gets sucked straight down into the floor and evacuated from this room, which is a really nice system to have. So I've got my gun filled with primer and I connect it to our air supply, and here I'm just checking the pressures and the fluid because it was used for a different kind of primer last. And once I'm satisfied with how it's spraying, I go ahead and put about a medium coat over this area, and it's pretty much just enough so that I can still just barely see those spots that I'm covering up through the primer. So this primer dries pretty quickly, and it only takes about 30 seconds to flash off enough for me to put a second coat on. So I'm just inspecting it here for if there's any scratches or pinholes that I've missed. I can fill them in with the primer as I'm going over this second coat. So I put another coat on, about the same amount, and you'll notice I'm not actually going all the way to the paper that I've used to mask off the rest of the hull, and that just helps leave a softer line there for the paint blend. So at this point, all of the repairs, all the primer has been covered up by the white primer, so it's all one nice uniform color for the paint to lay on top of. And just a little bit more inspecting, and we like to hit the edge of the bow here with a little bit of extra primer, just because when we're going to sand it out, it's nice to have it be a little thicker up there where you can really blow through it pretty quickly if you're not careful. So now I'll speed the video up a little bit more. I'm just cleaning my gun out, and we just clean it out with acetone, and I put it back into the same container that I mixed the primer up with, so it's now a mix of primer and acetone, and we have a 55-gallon drum to dispose of all that into, which we can actually use a solvent recovery system in another part of our shop to get some clean solvent back and reuse. So over on the left side of the screen in our shop, we've got a paint gun cleaner. We'd like to clean the gun out as much as we can by hand first, because the material in the paint gun cleaner, we like to keep it clean because it reuses itself for a long time. But here I go with a close-up shot of the primer, and you can see it's still a little bit wet, so there's a glare to it. That'll flatten out as it dries, but you can see the lines in the glare from the lights are all nice and straight, which tells us that the repair has been fared in correctly, and the hull is now straight again. So I didn't get any footage of the painting process, but here is the paint on the boat the day after it was painted. So this is fully cured, at least overnight cure. And you can see again those lines are nice and straight. And it's nice and shiny now. And this will be how it looks when it's finished. So up by the paper we have our blended area, which we pretty much thin the paint in half, and it kind of almost like melts into the original paint, and that gets wet sanded and compounded and polished, and here it is after all of that work, and the deck has been demasked, and I'm actually applying the shark fin, which we took off before the repair even started. And we actually have the capability to make these decals now, so we're able to make any decals, any logos, any boat names in-house. We also sell them on our website, so if you're interested in decals for a project or for your boat or a boat name, you can find that on our website. So you can contact us if you have any specific requests for a vinyl transfer. And the customer actually came to the shop pretty much right after we told her it was finished. She wanted to get back on the water, which is alright. So everything that we used in this video can be found in the description below. Thank you for watching Shell Repair USA, the world's greatest boat shop.